Emailing me. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Before we start, I know we had a lot of our partner institutions, associations in the upstate that were affected by Hurricane Helene. And so we just want to take a minute and let everyone know that they are in our thoughts and our prayers. And if there are any institutions or associations that were unable to join us today due to displacement or power outages, please have them reach out to us directly. Tanya and I will keep a list and we can go back and coordinate a session with them in the future once they have power or they have secured housing. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot of slides today. It's a lot, and I'm sorry, and we're going to go quick. But we're going to ask that you please hold your questions to the end so we can try and get through the slides. And then that way everybody can see the slides. And if Tanya and I need to stay later to get through all your questions, we will do that. But we kind of put this together as a resource for you guys so that you would have it to refer to as we go through this new process. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You're going to see a lot of screenshots. We want you to be able to see what the student sees in the new process, but we're also going to show you what you should expect in the new process. So let's go ahead. So this is our Palmetto Fellows timeline for the class of 24-25. I'm not going to go through all of it step by step. It is currently on our high school counselor resource page. And that is available there for you as a PDF if you need it to distribute it. So we are currently in the early award period for the class of 2025. We're going to call that our 25 cohort. Our cohort years are always the second year in the academic year. And so it will be open until April 15th of 2025. And it will, you'll notice on here, it says application must be submitted online by student before 11:59 p.m. on April 15th. So just to clarify for you guys, that is the student portion. The high school counselor portion is not required to be done by that timeline. So just that the student needs to have their application actually submitted to the commission by that date. High school counselors can take care of their portion after that. And we will be in contact with you and reaching out with you to get that completed. We will open the late award period on May 15th, and then we will close it on June 30th at 11:59. And it's the same scenario. Okay, so we have year-round Palmetto Fellows applications. So we will continuously review applications as they're received. We will load the decision into our data system, and then that will release an email to the student, and it will also update the portal. And so it'll update the portal. And so the portal will update in real time and it will be available to the student before they will actually get the email. So if they're checking their dashboard, their application dashboard, it will show the update. The Palmetto Fellows portal that we have is for our counterparts at the financial aid offices in the state. And so they will load directly in there and they'll be able to see which students are eligible for the Palmetto Fellows Scholarship. We are going to keep our 1 month time frame while Tanya and I retrain ourselves on the new process. So that is going to stay into play right now. Hopefully, as we get trained on the new process, we'll be able to cut that down in terms of processing. So the student has to apply for the Palmetto Fellows before they graduate high school or during the late award period. So if you have any mid-year graduates, they have to have their application submitted to CHE prior to the graduation date that is going to be on their final 12th grade transcript. And then just key point for the late award, it is late, so they will need to make arrangements for that tuition bill. Our scholarship eligibility requirements. So we have two different sets. We have our standard set, which requires the student rank in the top 6% at the end of either 10th, 11th, or 12th grades. They have 3 different years that they can secure that class rank. They can earn a 1200 SAT or a 25 ACT to qualify, and they need a 3.5 cumulative SCU GPA. The year for that GPA is going to depend on if they are being submitted during the early award or the late award. The early award is a final 12th, or excuse me, final 11th grade GPA. So they need a 3.5 final 11th grade GPA. If they're going in the late award, it would be a final 12th grade GPA. We have alternative criteria. So this is our students who can qualify without class rank, or if they attend an institution that doesn't rank. So they need a 1400 SAT or a 31 ACT and a 4.0 cumulative SCU GPA. And as I just stated, early award, that 4.0 would be a final 11th grade GPA. And for the late award, that would be a 4.0 final 12th grade GPA. All test scores can be super scored. So please keep that in mind. We communicate in a couple different ways. And so one of the ways is we keep a scholarship list, and I just realized I should change the slide. So we keep a point of contact scholarship list, and we're going to show you that at the end of this slide deck. We are now running that through our new CRM product. So that'll be much easier for you guys to update your staffing contacts if you have turnover or just staffing changes, your cross training. And then we also send it out through the SCDE school counselor listserv. So this is the website and then how to click that listserv. So let's go ahead and get started on what the actual new process will look like. So we sent an email on June 18th to open the class of 25 cohort. If you did not get that email from us, please, you will need to send us an email because we've already distributed it to our contact list. And so that email will go to our scholarships@che.sc.gov email. We can get that email from from June sent to you, but you're also going to want to subscribe, which Tanya's going to cover later. So this is what the right side of the screen is, what we are going to call the student invitation. That was attached to that email. It is a fillable PDF. You can put in the high school counselor name, the high school counselor email, and then save it as that PDF. And so they'll have that information. It gives them the website to go and apply, or they can scan the QR code and get them to the application website. And so they're going to select early application and then fall of 25 once they get there. So this is what our application website looks like. They'll click start an application. And so as I indicated before, they're going to pick early Palmetto Fellows application. They're going to enter their personal information to set up an account. And then they need to pick fall 2025 cohort. So that would be when they would be required to enter school unless they utilize a gap year. So that's where we're getting that cohort. Fall of 2025 is when these students should enter college unless they utilize a gap year. Okay, so once they have their account created, it's going to take them to their dashboard. This is exactly what their dashboard is going to look like. It's going to show at the top, early Palmetto Fellows application, fall 25 cohort. It will say their name. And then on the left-hand side, this is what we call the left side menu bar. It also has an application process at the top. Wouldn't really worry too much about that. As they go down through these, it will check them off. They will very easily be able to tell what they have done and what they haven't. So there are 4 different drop downs under student information. So they will click on the gray part to drop it down. It will show over here, there are 5 items required on personal information, 4 on mailing, 1 on demographic. So as they go through that, they will enter their name, their social security number, their date of birth, their mailing address, cell phone number, all that information you guys used to key on in that digital form online, the student is now going to provide us directly. So under the personal information, it is going to ask their date of birth, and then is going to ask if they are 18 years or older. And so based on this information, it will then determine if the student is under 18 that we need parental consent. Where before it was just a signature on a paper, and now the parents are going to electronically sign it as well. So the next part is mailing address. They will provide their mailing address, home phone number, cell phone. They can opt in for texting so that we can text them about their application status or any future scholarship requirements. Um, it leaves the door open for us to be able to communicate with them, especially once they're in college. So then demographic information, they will have the ability to submit demographic information. Um, and then it's going to take us to parent. So this is different than parental consent. This is just asking for primary parent and guardian information that they can provide. At the bottom of each one of these screens, you'll see this blue bar down here. It says go to next step. That is at the bottom. That's how they will proceed through the application. They will come up on high school information, and you can see on the left-hand side as we went through student, we completed student, so now it's checked off. Now we're on high school. So our system utilizes a school lookup feature, and this is tied in nationally for schools across the United States. So they can push in their name and it'll pop up. They can just click on that. All the information will be loaded, SEEB code, address, all of that. A lot of this is tied to SEEB lookup. So for our homeschool associations that may not have a SEEB code, chances are the student is probably going to have to manually enter the homeschool association. And this is where I need to be very, very clear. They do not enter the name of their parents' homeschool. They are entering their homeschool association's information, because the only way they are eligible to apply for the application for the scholarship is through the association. If they put their parents' homeschool's name, they're not on the approved list. That application could be denied because we don't have them as an approved homeschool association, option 1, 2, or 3 through SCDE. And so I need to be clear about that because we had some people with the late award, and I'm not sure. It relies on us to, be able to get a hold of them and to try and clarify, what are you with an association? Because a lot of times what they did with the late award is they did it with Jones Academy, and then mom did the high school counselor part. We had zero homeschool association information. So we very much need you to be clear with your families that when the student is entering this, they're not entering Jones Academy. They are entering Palmetto Independent Educators. Whatever your approved homeschool association is what they will enter here. Then that is going to take them on to the next one, which is the school counselor authorization and parental consent request. So the parental consent request is only going to show if the student is under 18 based off date of birth reported at the time they complete the application. So if the student doesn't want to do a parental consent and the student is under 18 until November, then they need to wait until after November to do this. Because if you do it in October, we are not going to process it without a parental consent because the student was not old enough to consent in October without parental consent. So just to keep that in mind, I don't know why that's an issue, but it apparently is an issue. So please have your students keep that in mind. If there's an issue getting parental consent and the student is going to turn 18 at some point in time, they may want to wait until after they turn 18 so the student can consent without parental consent. So every student is going to have a required school counselor authorization. Parental consent will only show if the student is under 18 based off date of birth and that question that it asks under student information. So when we get to this page, it's going to show what the student needs to do here. And then they're going to click add request. And then, so this student, me in this scenario, needs to submit a parental consent request and a school counselor request. So when they click add, it's going to give them a drop-down menu. If the student is over 18, parental consent is not required. They are only going to see school counselor authorization here. They will not see parental consent. So the fact that they're seeing both right there should be a second trigger that they need to do both. So they'll click the one that they are going to do. So we're going to look at parental consent first. And so when they pop that up, it's going to say parent guardian name and then email. And then it's going to ask if they waive the right to view the information submitted on their behalf, because the student cannot see the consent the parent submits or what the high school counselor submits. They can only see that it's been sent to them, and then they can see that it's done. That's it. So they'll enter that information and then they'll hit send request. And this is what it will look like on the student screen. So we have sent a parental request to their parent. It will show that it's pending, the date it was sent, and the email address it was sent to. So then we still need to do our high school counselor. So we're going to hit add request again. And at that point in time, we are going to pick high school counselor. So this is a screenshot of a student who is over 18 where it only shows school counselor. So they would only need to do one request. So when we do school counselor authorization, this is where the invite, the early or late invite, is going to come into play, because they're going to need the school counselor name and the email address, which is what was included on that invite, in order to be able to send it to the correct place. So once the student has done both of those, they will show on their application as submitted. You can see them as pending, email, date sent. But you'll also notice over here on the left where I have it, or excuse me, that's the right. Over on the right where I have it in green, it says delete or resend. So if at any point in time, let's say the student mistyped the parent's email, they can go in and delete that one and redo it. Or let's say mom missed it, mom deleted it, mom can't find it for whatever reason, the student needs it done. They can just log into their dashboard and they can hit resend, and it'll go ahead and automatically resend that email. So as Tanya and I have started processing early award apps, we have kids that submitted their applications in August. We have everything we need from the school counselor or the school administrator. We just don't have parent consent. So that app's going to sit there until we can get parent consent. We can go in and resend that email to the parent because apparently they've missed it, but the student has that ability as well. So if a student is telling you, hey, I did it, it's still showing outstanding, they can log in here and have that email resent to you right then and there. At the bottom of that screen, I don't know how, but they're missing this huge green bar that says submit. So they need to click that in order to have their application be eligible for Tanya and I to be able to view it, for us to be able to process it. And so this can get tricky because they've already done the request to you. We just did that, but they haven't submitted their application. So this is why the student needs to be logging into their dashboard and checking. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got 3 check marks. We're on the submit application. So when they click submit, all of those fields that they used to personally initial on that 2-page form, that's what these are. So it's the same verbiage. They're just going to read through it. They're going to click each one off. And then at the bottom, they need to submit or click submit your application. It will also give them the opportunity, just like the form did, to provide us the ability to speak to people regarding their application on their behalf. So this should not be a high school counselor because we will speak to a high school counselor about a student's application. This should really be like a parent, a guardian, an aunt and uncle, whoever other than the high school counselor is helping them through this process. And then so they will click that they've read and they agree, and then they're going to manually enter their name and their date and then submit application. So if everything goes great and this is what they submitted, then this is what they will see. They'll get a pop-up that says, you have submitted your application. We've received it. They can click, okay, great. And it will take them to their dashboard. And so this is what their dashboard is going to look like. It's going to say, you've successfully submitted your app. You can see all the other prior stuff is done that we did is now gone. However, the high school counselor authorization and the parental consent are still out there. So if they ever need to access those areas, they just go to their dashboard and they click on the left there and it'll take them right there.
Okay.
And so I'm going to give
So,
it to Tanya now.
yep. Um, so once they hit that submit button within a few minutes, they are instantly going to receive an email. If they do not receive an email, that means they input their email address incorrectly. So they should receive this email. It will come from scholarships, CHE scholarships, and it's just going to say, "Hey, you've submitted your, in this case, early award Palmetto Fellows application," and then they can click that button at any time, and it's going to take them back to their dashboard. So again, it'll take them back to their dashboard. Once it's submitted, so on two previous screens it said thank you for submitting. It will stay with that message until we actually go under review. And so we change the status on our end to in review, and that means that we are currently reviewing it. So that changes the message on their dashboard to say we're reviewing your application. And that also populates a checklist down below. So this checklist is items that we are looking for in the application. And we do want to note that the high school transcript, and we're going to mention this a few times, is manually checked off. So this does not get checked off until either myself or Katie has reviewed the application and ensured that it is submitted and correct. So that will get checked off. But if they're just wondering where they are in the application, they can check their checklist. So what happens next? Again, if the student sent the parental consent, this is the email that the parent will get. So it just says, "Hey, parent, your student is applying for the early award. Please click here." Now let families know, and this is for you too, that is a one-time click button. So you can't go back. So you need to be ready to submit everything when you click that button. So the parent clicks the button saying that they're ready. They put their first name in, their last name in, and then because again the student is under 18, they are agreeing to all of the agreements that was in the student application that they had to agree to as well. And so then down at the bottom of this form, they've acknowledged all the statements, and then they sign and date just like the student has. And then they get this screen saying that it's been received. They can print it for their records if they'd like. We do not need a copy of this. This is just to let the parent know that it has been successfully submitted. So then the next one is to our high school counselor. Again, as soon as that student hits submit to send the high school counselor request, you will also get an email from CHE Scholarships just saying, "Hey, this student would like you to submit some information on their behalf." And again, you will click that submit supporting documentation. But again, this link only works one time. So be prepared when you click on the link that you need to complete everything. You can't go back to it, and you can't submit additional items later if you forgot them. So this is what it'll look like on your end. So it'll say, "Hey, counselor," whatever your name is. You'll put your first, your last name, and then what award period you're submitting for. So for the early award, you will select early award. So depending on what award status you click, award period you click, it will populate different information. So for the early award, it's going to automatically populate 11th grade GPA. So you need to put the final 11th grade SCU GPA in that final 11th grade GPA area. During the late award, if you select late award, you would put that final 12th grade GPA. And this will automatically populate, so you don't have to worry about putting it in the correct areas. It's there for you. So after you enter in the GPA, then we're going to go to test score. So this is a yes or no question. Is the student using rank? Do they need rank to qualify? Are they using top 6% in either 10th, 11th, or 12th? If you select yes, then it will auto populate which year did they meet rank. If you select no, this won't even auto populate, so you don't have to worry about it. But then you would select what year they need rank. So if they did not meet it in 11th grade, then you would select 10th grade. And then if it were the late award and they didn't have 11th or 10th, you would select 12th. So then again, in this scenario, this student is using rank. We have selected yes, and they're going to use rank from the 10th grade. So then it's going to auto-populate the 10th grade information, and it's going to ask you to manually key in what their rank was, what the class size was, and you will have to manually do the times 0.06% to figure out what that top 6% number is. It doesn't auto-populate. We're sorry. So you'll enter that information for us. And then if you selected no, they didn't need rank, or you're not using rank, or your school doesn't rank, then it just moves straight to test score information. You don't even have to worry about entering rank. So then you will say, it says, has the student met the test score? For our early award, this should be yes for everybody. So for early award, you would select yes, and then it will populate three options. Is the student sending the ACT? Is the student sending the SAT? Or are you, I will be uploading the official score reports here. So in this scenario, we've said, yes, the student has met the score, and I will be, as the counselor, be uploading the score report, and that will auto-populate this uploaded files. So you would upload the test score that you have here. If the student is super scoring and you have multiple test scores, you can upload multiple files to this area. So here's the example. We've uploaded 2 test scores, but in the scenario where we've said no, the student is sending the ACT, it will populate our ACT and SAT codes for you to give to the student. But you can still upload any test scores that you have. So maybe the student is close and they're taking it over the summer. So you want to give us all the information that you have just in case they're super scoring. Please do so. It'll still populate an area for you to upload test scores, even if the student is sending it. Okay, and then just like the ranking for ranking, you'll enter the SAT and ACT scores that you have. And so you'll just enter that in the appropriate spots. And then next is high school. So then you're going to upload the transcripts. So you're going to put the high school information in, and then if they're using, you can say if using 10th grade rank only to qualify, you would upload their 10th grade transcript in the 10th grade spot. If they don't need 10th grade rank, we don't need 10th grade transcript. You don't have to upload it. We only need the 10th grade transcript if they're using 10th grade rank. So for our early award, you're really going to utilize this 11th grade transcript area where you're going to upload their final 11th grade transcript. And then for the late award, the late award will populate. Now, this is not a place to enter your ranking reports, and we'll talk about that later. This is just a place to enter the transcripts. The ranking reports need to be emailed to us at the end of each year, again, which I'll talk about later. And then you will get confirmation. So this is for your records. We don't need a copy of it. We don't need a screenshot of it. This is just for your records so that you have it saying who you've submitted, what date you submitted them, and then the files that you uploaded. Now, if a file is missing from what you believe you uploaded, just send us an email and we can look at it and let you know if we got it. And if not, we'll work together to make sure we can get that form from you. Okay, so again, this is just a submitted document summary. You can save it if you want, print it if you want, but this is just all the information that you input on for the student. Okay, so then the student gets an email. As soon as you hit that submit button, they get an email saying, hey, your counselor submitted their supporting documentation. And so this is really for us on our end. This starts our 30-day clock. As soon as we get the transcript and the test scores, we try our very best to process within 30 days. And so the student gets an email saying that you've submitted your stuff, and if the parent submitted it, they get an email saying the parent submitted their documentation. And they can go back to their dashboard at any point, and down there it will say we received high school counselor submission. It's already checked off. And so they can see it there as well. So again, everything gets manually checked off except the transcript. So once you submit the SAT or ACT score, that gets checked off on the checklist. The parental consent gets checked off, and the high school counselor automatically gets checked off as soon as you hit submit. But we really need to review those high school transcripts and put our eyes on it before we are comfortable checking it off. So just let the families know, and if you've submitted it, just let them know you've submitted it and that it's under review. And if we have any issues, we'll be in contact. But once we've reviewed it, we will check it off of the checklist. Okay. And so then the student dashboard. So once we have determined that the student has met the academic eligibility, we move them to a conditional offer. So they get an email and their dashboard updates again. And so their email will say, hey, you've been conditionally offered, check your dashboard. And so then they get to this screen and we say, yay. And as you can see over on the left-hand side, the college designation form has now loaded onto their dashboard. So there's information at the bottom that tells them what they need to do, but essentially they just need to click on that college designation form when they know where they are going fall of 2025. So once they click on it, most of the information will automatically populate from the information from their application. And then they just need to complete the blank fields. The biggest thing is that personal email address. Make sure they're not using the high school email address, so that we can get a hold of them after they graduate high school. It pre-populates that they can check their graduation date because we use that as their cohort information. So they're just checking all of this. And then this is where they select their institution. So if they're doing a 4-year, they just click the institution that they're going to in South Carolina, and it pre-populates just their student certification, and it lets them know that they have to earn 30 credit hours and a 3.0 life GPA, and just gives them all the important information that they need. So they agree to the student certification. Now they can select out of state, other or gap, or 2-year institution. So if you have students who, because we no longer have the declination form, but they know that they're going out of state, they can still complete the application and select out of state. And this just kind of allows them to use their scholarship should they return to South Carolina and meet the continued eligibility requirements. So they would select out of state, they'll enter the institution that they're going to, and then we just keep that information for our records. If they select other or gap, which they can do, they would just put again what they're doing during their time away, but they can take a year off and do a gap, and this would just tells them that they need to fill out a reapplication form when they return, and they're just agreeing to that. And then finally, they can select any of our 2-year institutions in South Carolina. Once they select 2-year, a new list of colleges will populate with all of our 2-year institutions, and they would just select what institution they're going to that way. And then they agree to the student certification that they understand the requirements of the scholarship. And then that's it. Once they have, they hit submit, they cannot come back to this page and change their mind. So they need to know, like once they hit submit, they have to call us if they have any changes. So they can see that they've submitted it here. It's been grayed out. And once we get it, we try to process it within the week. And then their checklist has all been updated. There's nothing pending on here. It's all ready to go. Their dashboard is done once they've completed their designation form.
Thank you, Tanya. Sorry, I can't see the page numbers. There's this thing on it. I can't see the page numbers. So let's talk about school rank policy. And I think that this is all going to be pretty standard, but we still want to cover it in case we have anybody that's new to state scholarship. So school rank policy, we try to lay eyes on that every 3 years. We keep a list at CHE. We update the date when we review it. So we don't need your school rank policy every year. We would just need it if you had changed it, or if it's been 3 years, we'll update that. When Tanya and I get some free time, we try and go out and look at your website to see if it's on your website in your handbook. And if we can find it there, we can just go ahead and update your date for you, and then we wouldn't necessarily need it from you. So rank reports. When we're talking about rank reports, there are a couple different formats that we typically get them in. So this is a sample rank report out of Power School. And so Power School does not include the words date calculated, but it shows the date that it was calculated right before the high school name. So we have it highlighted here. It gives the grade level here. So we have grade level being ranked, date rank was calculated, school name. Then we have students' names, class rank, and their GPA. So those are the required fields that are required on a rank report. So that's what is standard on a Power School rank report. So any of our public schools that are using Power School through SCDE, this should be sufficient. If you're doing it in a PDF, if you're doing it in an Excel document, you need to make sure that these data points are on that. The other thing is you need to make sure your rank report matches your transcripts. And so we're going to cover that a little bit later too. So this is a sample rank report from one of our independent or private schools or potentially a homeschool. So it needs to have the name at the top. And so you can either put your name up there or you can put it on letterhead. It needs to say the date that it was calculated. It needs to show the grade level that was calculated, the students in the class, their SCUGP, and their class rank. And so you can also feel free to initial if you would like, sign or initial. So we've made up this little infographic, and this is going to be on our high school counselor resource page for you. I've cut the bottom of it off because it wouldn't fit. So I apologize, but the full graphic is on our website. So for class rank process, so at the end of the academic year, you need to review your transcripts and your class rank report. You need to make sure that your GPAs match between the transcripts and the rank report. The class size matches between the transcripts and the rank report, and the class ranks match. And so this is where it gets tricky because you can be running rank and somebody in the front office could be withdrawing a student because they're transferring to a new school. So usually transcript calculation and rank calculation need to happen simultaneously on the same day. We will take a rank report that has a different date than the transcripts as long as it is prior to SCDE's June 15th date each year, and as long as those data points match GPA, class size, class ranks. And so I cannot stress that enough. When you archive, you need to spot check your transcripts to your rank report. Do not just file it away, go for summer break, or put it away and not look at it until August when you start trying to do apps, and then there's a problem because I can't help you fix that problem in August. So please check that before June 15th each year to make sure that it's accurate. Then with our next one is June 30th. And so June 30th is the date that final 12th grade class rank reports have to be submitted to CHE by June 30th each year. And so that is specifically for life eligibility for the top 30% of your high school class to qualify for life eligibility at the financial aid offices. We have to have that rank report to load in our portal so that they can see it. So the rank report has to be in a PDF. So if you download it from PowerSchool in a Excel doc, you need to convert that to a PDF and email it to us at scholarships.che@che.sc.gov. Excuse me. Let me get that off of there. For Palmetto Fellows. So we need additional class rank reports for Palmetto Fellows. We need 10th grade and 11th grade, which Tanya just talked about. So those should be archived at the same time that you do your final 12th grade. So our tip is that when you send your final 12th grade rank report to us by June 30th, go ahead and send us grades 10 and 11 as well. So if you submit grades 10 through 12 every year, class rank reports at the end of the year by June 30th, you don't have to touch your rank report again, because then when you start processing apps, we already have it. And so what we are running into this year is we got some 12th grade rank reports, but we didn't get 10th or 11th. Tanya and I go and start processing apps and we don't have the rank report that we need. Well, you may have emailed it, but we have a lot of parts moving at the same time. So we're trying to process apps by a 30-day deadline. Then we have a rank report somewhere else that's coming in at the same time that you're submitting your apps for processing. And so there's no guarantee that our timing is going to mesh on all of those. So it could delay the processing in your students' applications if you are waiting until September to submit your rank reports to us. So our suggestion is just send grades 10 through 12 at the end of the year, and we will go ahead and archive them. The Next one that is on this that is cut off is that rank tie letters. So if you have any rank ties, obviously for the top 30% of the 12th grade class, we need a rank tie letter. And so if you want a sample rank tie letter, shoot us an email at scholarships. We can send you a sample tie letter, but we would recommend that you just go ahead and break those ties and send that rank tie letter when you send your rank reports, and we will archive it. We only need top 30% for the final 12th grade. For 10th and 11th, it would just be top 6%. Okay, so this is a sample transcript from our public school. This is, I believe, the Power School format. For that, we are specifically looking at the grade level up here. So final 11th grade would need to say 11th grade. It would need to say class of 2025. The graduation date should be listed. It has to say final. It cannot say work in progress. And then we are looking down here on the right for GPA, class rank, and so forth. All of the transcripts in South Carolina have to have a signature in order to be official. So this is a sample transcript for an independent school or a homeschool association. So we're looking at the data for the calculation. We're looking at student information up here, grade level, graduation date, date calculated. We cannot take a date printed as a date calculated because those are not the same. And then it would need to be signed on the bottom as well. Okay, for score reports, score stickers. So this is a slight change from previous years. If you are using SAT or ACT score stickers, those you are going to have to scan in from your copier or however you're scanning them in. Those need to have a signature or initials on them. So this is a sample of that. How same with Enrich or Frontline. If it's your system that your district uses and you're pulling it out of that, it needs to contain the staff initials of when it was done. It also has to reflect the student's name on it. If you are pulling it from the K-12 portal, so this is an example of SAT has a couple different score reports that they do. So we are still seeing some of these. This is the older score report. They've now moved to a newer one. So this is page 2 of the older one. So on the older one, we just need this page because it would have the dates, the scores, student name at the bottom. And so we could just super score right from that. The new ones, unfortunately, only have one test sitting. So we would need a score report for each one if they're super scoring over multiple sittings. If they are coming from the K-12 portal, it has to be a school report, cannot be a student report, and it does not need a high school counselor signature or initial. So you can just download it right out of the portal, save it, and then upload it right into the high school counselor authorization. If it comes in and it says a student score report, we will not take it, and I will be contacting you. So this is an ACC score report out of the K-12 portal. This one is super scored automatically. And so if the score report is super scored from ACT, I only need that one. They pull the dates from the test scores. If it's not super scored, I would need more than one score report. So this is a sample of a student score report, which you'll see right at the bottom. It tells us that this is Kayla's score report from the student account. We will not accept this. So if you upload this, we will be contacting you or the student for the correct score report. If you are trying to super score ACT scores and you're trying to figure out what the student has, you're not sure about the ACT rounding, by all means, just go to their super score calculator. You can plug them in and it'll let you know if your rounding is correct. As Tanya mentioned before, we no longer have a declination form. And so we are monitoring this as we move through it. If this ends up being an area for you guys that is an issue, let us know. But because the student is now responsible for starting the application and submitting the application, we are going to take that as the students decline to apply if they don't submit an application. So our recommendation to the high school counselor or homeschool administrator is document counseling the student that they were eligible to apply, and then make sure you document that on the student's record. And then, so if the student doesn't ever apply, it was the student's responsibility to submit the application. If your homeschool or your district decides that you want to do a declination form of some sort for your school or your district, that is your choice. We're not going to force you to do that. You can feel free to do that. But we are currently taking no application as receipt of the student's declination, if you will. Okay, so student notification. Students will be notified. Like we said before, the dashboard is going to automatically update when we process that, but the student will also get an email. All of our emails are coming from our scholarships email. So for our school or homeschool staff, we would highly encourage you add this maybe as a contact in your Outlook, put it on your safe senders list, just to make sure that you get all of our communications. We are keeping that 1 month time frame as much as we can. And then obviously that can vary during the late award. So for the designation form, Tanya kind of showed you this before, but it's online form. It's in the student's dashboard once the student's application has been processed. And so it will sit in there until it's completed. We give an August 31st deadline every year, but we are aware that students do not adhere to that deadline. So we try and say August 31st. And so the reason we say August 31st is because most of the bills are due prior to that or finally around that time. And so they won't get a Palmetto Fellows on their award to pay if they haven't done that designation form. So that's why we use August 31st. So the Palmetto Fellows Award first year is up to 6,700. Years 2, 3, and 4, it increases to 7,500. The Palmetto Fellows Scholarship is a last dollar scholarship. And so what that means is that the Financial Aid Office will award all other forms of aid, gift, merit, loans, work study, all other forms of aid will be awarded. And then Palmetto Fellows will come in last. You can go up to the cost of attendance. So some important tidbits. Tanya covered this before when she went over the designation form, but students do have the ability to utilize a gap year. And so they would need to submit the application. And then when they submit the designation form, they're gonna pick gap year. And then the small font is gonna change, the small print is gonna change, and it's gonna tell them what they're required to do when they come back from a gap year. So they have one full academic year. So the class of 25, graduating class of 25 would need to enroll by fall of 26 in order to keep from forfeiting their Palmetto Fellows. We've kept bullet 2 in here, even though it's not new. Since the fall 21 term, students have been able to attend a 2-year institution in South Carolina and receive their Palmetto Fellows. And so we have a list on our website under Palmetto Fellows that lists the eligible 2-year institutions. And then for early grads, if you have an early grad checklist, we would highly encourage you to add state scholarships on that. And so at the end of this, I'm pretty sure it's one of Tanya's slides, she's going to go over early grads and graduating early. It can affect both Palmetto Fellows eligibility and life. And so I just think it's best for you and your staff if you cover that. If a student comes in and says, hey, you know what, I'm going to be done. I'm not going to come back in the spring term. And usually they don't give you a whole lot of notice. So if you have some type of early grad checklist, you might want to add state scholarships to that. So how does a student keep their Palmetto Fellows once they are in college? So they need a 3.0 cumulative home institution GPA. So the home institution is where the student is enrolled in the degree program. They must earn 30 credit hours each academic year. So for Palmetto Fellows, it does not include AP, IB, CLEP, or dual enrollment exempted hours. like life will. So they have to enroll and earn 30 credit hours each academic year. So if the student is short, so at the end of the spring term every year, the financial aid office is going to review the student's transcript. And if they're short on credit hours or GPA, they will send that student an email and tell them that they have failed to meet the requirements to renew their Palmetto Fellows. However, they have the summer term to try and correct that so that the student can regain the Palmetto Fellows for fall. So if the student is short on credit hours, they can go to any institution and take coursework as long as the home institution will accept those classes towards the student's degree program. That they could be electives, but they just need to run it through the home institution first to make sure that the home institution will accept those credit hours. If the student is short on GPA, they have to take classes at the home institution because it's a home institution GPA. So credit hours will transfer from other institutions, but the grades don't. So you can't raise a GPA if you're not getting a grade. So they would need to take summer courses at their home institution to raise their GPA to try and regain that scholarship. Enhancements. This is a hot button this year. I appreciate Tanya letting me do this. So for Life and Palmetto Fellows, a student can earn a scholarship enhancement at the end of the first academic year. They need to earn 14 credit hours of math or science by the end of the first academic year. And the exact opposite of what I just told you, for enhancement purposes, we will include AP, IB, dual enrollment, CLEP, and exempted courses. They must also be enrolled in an eligible major at their home institution. So we've had, you've probably seen enhancements in the news this year. So the General Assembly added accounting and education to those eligible enhancements. So we currently have institutions submitting accounting majors and accounting coursework to be approved for the 14 credit hours and to be approved for the enhancement programs. For our education students, they do not need to take the 14 credit hours. However, they need to be in an eligible degree program. And so the institutions are submitting lists of those degree programs to us for processing. For our education students, they will need to sign a work, I think we're calling it a work contract. So the General Assembly put in there that for every year the student receives the enhancement, they have to work 1 year at a Title I school in South Carolina in a certified position in order to have that forgiven. So if they don't work, then it becomes a loan. And so right now it's a 0% interest loan. But that work contract is in there. So the student will need to complete the work contract before they can receive the funds. All of our students are eligible for the enhancement starting their second academic year if they are at a 4-year institution. So we get a lot of questions from families, students coming out of high school with an associate's degree or so forth. They can't have the enhancement year one. The way the statute is written for the enhancement, it's after their first year of college enrollment. And so them taking dual enrollment in high school and getting an associate's does not count as college enrollment for the enhancement. Okay, so with our enhancements for the Life Scholarship year one, it's up to $5,000 for the Life Scholarship. If they get the enhancements for years 2, 3, and 4, it's up to $7,500. The Palmetto Fellows Scholarship year one is $6,700. Years 2, 3, and 4, it increases to $7,500. But if the student gets the enhancement, it's going to increase up to $10,000 for years 2, 3, and 4. If you have any students with a documented disability, we always recommend that they go ahead and register with the Office of Disability Services or Student Accessibility Services. Every campus will have this office. It's just that the name will vary by campus. And so the reason that we primarily recommend this is that the student may be eligible for accommodations. One of those accommodations could be a reduced course load. And so there are timelines on when the student can get a reduced course load. They can't, so for example, they can't get a reduced course load in November for the fall term. It has to be in place prior to the fall term. That doesn't mean the student has to utilize it. But if the student gets in trouble and is having difficulty, they can go to this office and say, I need to utilize that reduced course load for fall. I need to drop a class. And then that this could mean the difference between them renewing their scholarship or losing their scholarship. So we recommend all students on an IEP, a 504, go ahead and register in college, and then they have them there to use if they need them. And I think, oh, nope, I think this is me. So every year we get calls, questions from people saying, um, South Carolina doesn't have the program my student needs, so they have to go out of state. And I heard that they could take their Palmetto Fellows with them. And so I can tell you that that is not accurate. None of our state funding leaves the state of South Carolina. However, if you have students who have very specific programs that are not offered in the state of South Carolina, we participate in the academic common market. So this is through SREB, and it allows South Carolina residents who are enrolled in specific programs out of state to attend out of state institutions, and they waive the out of state surcharge. So they would pay in state tuition at a Georgia institution, per se, when they are technically a South Carolina resident. So it's not their state scholarship, but it absolutely helps. So right off the bat, the very first one and most popular is our veterinary science. We don't have a veterinary science school in South Carolina currently. Clemson is working to alleviate that for us, but as it is currently, all of our students majoring in veterinary science, they leave the state, and a lot of them participate in academic common market. And so at that point, I'm going to give it to Tanya and let her talk to you about transcripts.
All right. Okay, so hopefully none of this is new to you, but if it is, I'm happy to go over it. So all of our transcripts for state scholarship purposes need to be based off of the SCUGP GPA. We and the South Carolina institutions do not accept weighted or unweighted. So it needs to have some sort of statement on there saying it's SCUGP or GPA. Not weighted or unweighted. So all official transcripts must be date calculated, and this is those final 12th grade transcripts, must be date calculated between 3 days prior to your high school graduation, but no later. This year, we got quite a few that were much earlier than 3 days prior to high school graduation, and then we got a few that were after June 15th. So must be no earlier than 3 days before high school graduation, but no later than June 15th. And then, of course, you cannot include any summer grades after you've date calculated that June 15th. Summer grades cannot be included for final and a transcript for scholarship purposes. So what we are looking for when we are reviewing your transcripts, we're looking for, again, a valid signature. From our public schools, that's usually the principal's signature. And then from our private independent, that is just the designated administrator. We are looking for the SCUGP, whether that says GPA is based off the South Carolina Uniform Grading Policy, grading scale, or it actually says SCUGP GPA. We are looking for that. We are looking for the date calculated on that final transcript that is no later than June 15th of every single year. And then for our 12th grade transcripts, we're making sure that they're final and that they have a graduation date. Again, we got a handful this year that didn't have any graduation dates listed. So we have to go back and get that on that transcript. And then if your school ranks as an official policy, rank needs to be on the transcript, even if the student is not using rank. So even if they meet the alternative criteria, if you rank okay. Okay, so just GPAs, this is the life regulation. So just so everybody is aware, the life regulation states that the SCUGP GPA is a cumulative 3.0 GPA. So a cumulative, so for early award, that's 9th, 10th, and 11th grade grades to create a cumulative SCUGP GPA. And then just for your information, final high school transcripts for scholarship purposes can only be based on a 4-year period. So any student that goes beyond the 4-year period is not eligible for the Palmetto Fellows and will have to earn the life scholarship after their first year in college. That same verbiage is in the Palmetto Fellows regulations. So it says the same thing. It's a cumulative GPA, no more than 4 years of high school. Okay, so if you have transfer students that either come from an out of state school or come from another South Carolina school, and you would like to submit them for a state scholarship, it has to have that SCUGP GPA, which is a cumulative GPA. So if your school does not transcribe those other courses to your transcript, then you're going to need to submit some sort of conversion that includes your grades and their grades to get a cumulative SCUGP GPA. If you need a conversion, we have a spreadsheet you can use. Just reach out to us and we're happy to share that. But again, we can't award a state scholarship if it's not that cumulative GPA. So Katie kind of went over this, but two students cannot occupy the same rank. So for the Life Scholarship, that's the top 30%, which does not round up. And then our Palmetto Fellows is the top 6%, which does round up. We just need a rank tie letter. So at the end of every year, when you are submitting, those to us, include the letter. So submit the rank reports and then your letter with the tie. We can't help you break the tie, but we can share example tie letters that we have received. Okay, so ranking policies, again, in order for any student to use rank, the high school, whether that's public, private, virtual, charter, homeschool, has to be the same for every student in the state. So what we look for in a ranking policy when we are reviewing them is that they're based on the SUGP GPA. They rank every student in the class, and that they are putting that information on the final high school transcripts at the end of each year. These ranking policies, once they're approved, should be on your school profile or in your handbook or on your website so that all of us here at CHE and your students and families in the colleges can have access to it. I do want to note that if you are with the South Carolina Department of Education, we have worked with them. So if you are a ranking school, we don't need your ranking policy. They've provided us all the schools that officially rank and that meet the SCDE standards. But if you're not in that loop or you deviate from the SCDE's policies, then send us your ranking policies. So rank reports, Katie kind of went over this again, but we are looking for all the students in that class. You're listing their GPAs, you're listing their class rank. It has a date calculated that is no later than June 15th, and it matches your transcripts every year, every single year. We get transcripts and ranking reports that don't match. So please make sure they match before you archive them. So this is new-ish. So on June, when did this go out? Okay, so it went out on June 15th of 2023. That's when we began, started with class 24. All final 12th grade ranking reports must come to CHE in a PDF format to our scholarships email. As Katie mentioned, we have a statewide portal that all the colleges have access to, and they will not award the Life Scholarship with rank if we do not have a ranking report from your high school on our portal, or if the information doesn't match, they will not award the students. And so please make sure that you are sending us your final 12th grade ranking reports and any tie letters by June 30th of each year so that we can get it uploaded to the statewide portal so that the colleges can start awarding the Life Scholarship as soon as possible. Just general eligibility for all of our state scholarship and grant programs. A student must be a U.S. citizen and legal permanent resident at the time of high school graduation and college enrollment. They can't have any felony convictions unless they're receiving LTAP. They can have no second or subsequent drug or alcohol misdemeanors. They can't be in default of any state or federal loans, and they need to go to a degree institution in South Carolina. So graduating early versus early graduate. So our early graduates are those seniors who are graduating mid-year. They're usually graduating in that winter term. Please let your families know. And I would even get them to sign something for your records. For Life Scholarship, they cannot use rank. They're being removed from the graduating class. So for those mid-year graduates who are on the life track, they would have to have the 3.0 and 1100 SAT or a 24 ACT in order to qualify at one of our four-year institutions. And every year we get a few phone calls of families who said that they just had no idea, that no one talked to them about it. They wouldn't have graduated early. So just please, 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 please talk to your families about this, that they cannot use rank if they're graduating mid-year. And then, as Katie mentioned earlier, if they are a Palmetto Fellow, they must complete that application and submit it prior to them graduating during that mid-year. Students who are graduating early, those are usually like sophomores skipping the 11th grade and entering into the new 12th grade. So for Hope in Life, they're not affected. They're joining the new graduating class, so they can use rank. And then Palmetto Fellows, it really just kind of depends on what year they are skipping. Most, again, that we've seen are students moving from 10th grade to 12th grade, so they cannot participate in the early award because the law requires an end of 11th grade transcript, and those students do not have an 11th grade transcript, so they must be submitted as part of the late award when they have a final 12th grade transcript. Okay, so this is a work in progress. Katie has been working very, very hard with our vendor to try to get this export to you. What we are working on is an export that we will email to you on a regular basis, that will have all the students who have started an application or submitted an application and where they are in the application process, so that when families and students come to you, you have more information to share with them. So this is a template that we are looking to use. So it would have your school name, the student's information, their date of birth, their email, and then their application status. So they've submitted. And then it's going to have that decision status grid. So conditional offer means that we have offered the scholarship to them. Their dashboard is complete. They just need to log in and do their designation when they are ready. Denied means that the student was ineligible for one reason or another. Missing documents. So if we are missing a rank report, if we're missing a transcript, if we're missing test scores, if we are missing anything, they get labeled as missing documents. And then in review means that we are reviewing them, and hopefully it will be within the month. But again, that is based off of when we receive that final high school transcript and test scores. Once they've completed the designation form, so if they're like, I don't know if I've done it or not, the other four columns that say 4-year, 2-year, out of state, and gap, whatever they have selected will say true. And that just means that they have submitted it. So we are working with our vendor to get this finalized. We have to make an individual export for every single high school in the state. And so that's just taking us a little longer than we anticipated, but we are working on this to help you share information with your families. So again, I checked right before we started this presentation. We have 144 students who have started their application but have not hit the submit button. We had 90 during the late award that we had to reach out to each student and be like, hey, you just have to hit the green button. So if your students have said to you, I have submitted my application, but they're not on the spreadsheet that we sent to you, most likely they have started their application and have not hit the submit button. So I would just have them log in and double check that there's nothing green on their screen. Okay, so we do have a counselor page, which we have been talking about this entire presentation. You'll go to che.sc.gov. You will click on for institutions and educators. And then over on the right-hand side at the top, it says high school counselor resources. We try to put all of our trainings on here, any handouts we have, any memos that go out on this page. We have FAFSA resources. This is where you will go. Some of you have probably tried to go to sccango.org and it is no longer available. That is now on our website. So you would go here for our college access programs to register for your CAM events, register for your college goal events, and then just to find other information that we are trying to share with you. The other thing, as Katie mentioned, if you are not receiving our email, emails, we need you to join our email listserv. So again, go to che.sc.gov, and at the top, you will see subscribe to CHE updates via email. It will take you to a new page where you'll put your first, last name, high school, and a phone number if you'd like to share that with us. Now, we recommend you not just click through everything, because these are point of contacts that we're trying to talk to you about specific things. So you probably don't want residency information that goes to the residency officers at the colleges when a law changes. So the two that we suggest that you sign up for is, one, the high school counselors. So any information that we have for any general high school counselors we'll send to that group. And then the other one is the Palmetto Fellows school contact. So if you were the school contact for the Palmetto Fellows, if staffing has changed, please make sure to sign up for that, because that is where we will send all of our Palmetto Fellows specific information to. And if you haven't heard, we have a new staff member. Their name is Cosmos. They are now available on our website. So on all of our scholarships, grants, and college access pages, there's a little ellipsis, little chat thingy at the bottom of the right-hand corner. You would just click that, and Cosmos will pop up and say, welcome, how can I help you today? And he can answer a lot of our general questions that we have regarding any state scholarships and college access programs and residency. And then if not, he will pass it off to a staff member who can better help the student or you. Okay, so now we are going to open it up for questions. What questions do you have for us?
Really quick, is this recording going to be sent to us, or is it going to be online?
Yes. So the recording and the slide deck will be emailed out, but they will also both be placed on the high school counselor webpage. So we got a question in the chat that says, I have to leave for another meeting. Could you do the Q&A Zoom at a later time? And so that is something that as we go through this, if you guys are struggling with this or you have very specific questions that you need time, let us know. We can schedule maybe some lunch and learns or something, just something that gets Tanya and I both in a room at the same time virtually, and opens it up to you guys to be able to ask us questions. So just as we go through this, let us know what you need, and we can work on getting them scheduled. There was another question in the chat about, do we send rank letters to a certain email address? Yes, it's scholarships@che.sc.gov. And I don't think I said this before, but please don't send it to the scholarships email and then send it to Tanya and I both, because then we are both working on the same work and there's only two of us. So if you send it to the scholarships email, please only send it to the scholarships email. And we've tried to direct it to that email, so it's much easier for us to be able to find it, triage it to the correct area, and get it processed quicker. Next question in the chat. It used to be that final had to be on the end of 10th and 11 transcripts, now just 12th. No, we only take final transcripts. We don't take any work in progress transcripts. So your transcript, the only transcripts you should be submitting to us should say final 10th, final 11th, and final 12th. I'm a new counselor, so I need help. Please reach out to us. We are here as a resource to you to help you. Is there a way for the counselor to designate a student has started the application but does not qualify? This is a great question, and we didn't cover this. And so this came up quite a bit in the late award. If your student got the application link erroneously, or a score was misattributed to them or something, and you originally thought they qualify and they don't now qualify, my advice to you is to go ahead, submit the high school counselor authorization with what you have. You have this GPA, you have this test score, you have this class rank. That gets it off of the high school counselor and it puts it on Tanya and I. And we will go through there and we will look at it and we will determine the student as ineligible. And so the last thing that we want in this scenario is for you to not submit it because the student didn't qualify, because all the student and family sees is that you didn't do that part. And so if you do your part and kick it to us, then we can go through and be like, hey, you don't qualify. This is what you need. And then that takes it off of you. If I completely just forgot what I was going to say. Sorry. So, moving on. Is there a way to get confirmation for the ranking report has been received? So when you send your rank reports to the scholarships email only, if you want a confirmation, please ask for confirmation when you send that email. So if you want to check to see if we have it, Kim, shoot an email to the scholarships. I can check and I can let you know what we have. When will the slide deck be available? We will, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. We will send it out via email. Would you be willing to create a student presentation? I would like to be able to show
Yes.
students the slides and
Yeah.
walk them through the online process as I give them the QR code.
Yep.
I'm not sure who said yes. We can work on, so you want screenshots to show the students, or you just want like an infographic?
Oh, I'm DeLacy and I submitted that. Just the slides you had that you showed us that just pertain to the students' online process, just pull those out. So I don't have to use the 100
Okay. We can do that for
three
you.
slides and just real quick go through and say, this is what you're gonna see. You get what I'm saying? Something just simple that I can show them so they will remember to hit that green button. This is what you're gonna see, this is what it's gonna be like. That would be easy if you could do it.
We can do that and we can put it on the high school counselor webpage. And I did forget to note earlier, for those of you who have been doing this for years, you remember on the certification authorization, it had 3 pages of information that the student and the parent or guardian were to retain. Those 3 pages have been put into a PDF and they are on the high school counselor webpage under scholarships. So you will have that as a resource to give them as well. If a new student transfers and appears to qualify for late, but they would like to be early, tell me they should be early from their previous school 11th grade. I need to get other schools' rank report and submit. Okay, so this is a great question, David. We may already have their rank report because if everybody sends rank reports at the end of the year, I should have it. You can shoot us an email to scholarships. I can look and tell you if I have that rank report. Sometimes the previous school will just give you the rank report. Sometimes they're going to give you a hard time. And in that situation, they can submit the rank report to our scholarships email. We will archive it. And then we will have it on file. So for any of your students who transfer to you at the end of 11th, going into 12th, they're telling you they qualify at the end of 11th with the previous school's information. You would need the previous school's rank report and the previous school's final 11th grade transcript for that student. Hopefully you already have the transcript, but yeah, you can shoot us an email at scholarships. We can tell you if we have that rank report. If we do, you don't even need to contact the previous school. If we don't, you'll need to reach out to them and say, I'm trying to submit this kid. I either need your rank report or I need you to send it to CHE at this email so they can process the application. At the beginning of the presentation, it stated emails were sent in June. Was that email sent to students? No. I have an eligible student that did not, we don't email the students, we email the high school counselor. So let me clarify this. We are giving the student invitation to the high school counselor. We are not putting that on our website because we are trying to make this process easier for you. And if we just put it out there where every student can find it, you may only have 50 students who qualified, and you could end up with 150 applications. And if you don't submit those, it's going to look like the high school counselor did not do their part. So that email went to the high school counselors in June. If you don't have that email, please send us an email to the scholarships email. We can resend it to you, but then you also need to go to our website and get yourself added to our high school counselor contact list for Palmetto Fellows. I don't know what's happening. There used to be a checklist in eligible applicants form. Do we use them this year? And if so, where can I find them? You cannot find them because they no longer exist. We will not accept, do not mail us anything. We are not accepting mail. We have PTSD from mail. There is no eligible applicants form. There is no longer a checklist. I did not receive an email in June. I just emailed at the beginning of this meeting. Okay, so we'll get to it after this meeting. Okay, so that's all the questions that are in the chat. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. You can ask the questions. I'm going to go ahead and advance this. We have 2 more workshops coming up. Wednesday, October 9th and Tuesday, October 15th. And those will be recorded and distributed as well. And then we will also have the slide decks available for those. And then I do want to provide you, here is our staff contact information for the Office of Student Affairs at CHE. But that's it. We thank you for your time today. We know it's a new process, but please let us know as you're working through it, if there's anything we can do to support you better. I've made notes about what we've requested today, and so we'll get working on that and get that available. But if there's anything else, if we need to do some Zoom Q&A sessions coming down the road, let us know. We can do that. But other than that, you're free. Class dismissed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are the best. We appreciate your help.